you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, it's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Oh my gosh, welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you. Not at least not as harshly as the rest of your family, because, you know, they know you. We don't know you as well enough to hate you. So we still accept you on the Chris Voss Show. But remember, we don't loan you money. Why is such a complicated thing you have to do there at the beginning, Chris? I don't know. It's the ramble. We just make something up every time. Today we'll be going to be talking about a wonderful young lady and her insights and how she can help you get the love you want, build better relationships. I finally got the love I want after years and years and years. It's called Two Husky Dogs. Because I'm largely unlovable, but you all know that after 16 years and 2,200 episodes. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places those kids are on the internet's doing weird things. Today, Michelle Bohls joins us on the show. She's part of an international faculty teaching a system of relationship intelligence called Imago. Did I get that right?
That's right. Yeah.
There we go.
Weird name.
I flunked second grade. It's based off a best-selling book by Harville Hendrix and Helen LaKelly Hunt called Getting the Love You Want. And it was a book that came out in, I guess a while. There's a third edition that just came out in 2019 that's been updated. Has a 13,903 4.0 rating on Goodreads and about 2,600 on Amazon. How does Goodreads? Wow, Goodreads really loves that book. But I guess technically Amazon owns it now. Jeff Bezos owns everything pretty much, including me at this point. Anyway,
no.
Yeah, I'm currently getting shocks in my chair telling me I need to order from Amazon again. It's been 5 minutes. So anyway, we're going to be talking to her about her insights and what goes on the show. She's practiced as a licensed marriage and family therapist for the last 15 years. And prior to that, she worked with executives to navigate career changes or build effective teams. She is passionate about intuition, her relationship with money, or our relationship with money, probably hers too.
Yeah, mine too.
It's all money. Relational ways to lead and sell, and of course, romantic relationships. I like how money plays into that. Welcome to the show. How are you, Michelle?
I'm great. This is so fun.
Thank you. We do a little bit of fun on the show. So, Michelle, give us your .coms. Where do you want people to get to know you better on the interwebs?
MichelleBohls.com. It's BOHLS.com, and you can find everything there.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you do, and I guess there's an incorporation of this book as well.
Yeah, the book kind of kicked everything off, and it's great if you are in a relationship and you're wanting to understand, like, what the heck is going on? Why do we keep getting stuck? What can we do about it? But then we really take, like, what we understand about all relationships and apply it much more broadly into people looking for love, leadership, business relationships. You know, I read your chapter 15 about your experience with your, like, the betrayal by your partner.
Oh, that was a fun one.
Right. And it's like, and so just trying to understand, like, why do relationships go wrong and why do they keep going wrong in the same way for me? Like, that is an interesting question. And so that's really what I do is I train therapists to work with couples and individuals, business coaches, life coaches, or managers, like just understanding what is going on in relationships.
There you go. And I like how you bring up the term lead. Tell us how that applies to what we're talking about today.
Well, so we have to start with the individual person and this idea, this premise that we are created by our experiences. We're created by the people in our life early on that creates us. And then we create our world. We see the world as we are. So if we have a part of ourselves that was never developed, we can't really see that we're doing that.
Mm.
We like there was an example of somebody, big leader walking down the hall, not making eye contact with people.
Mm.
And that's because they were just in their head thinking about it. They didn't know that they were having an impact on people.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get caught up in your own sort of, what you're worrying about, what you're thinking about. And eye contact is, as a leader, you need to connect with people. You need to
Right.
connect with your people. And also, I used to call it the touching the hearts and minds, and HR said I couldn't call it that anymore after a while. But I used to call it as checking in and touching the hearts and minds of my employees. And
Yeah.
so I would check in with them. Salespeople can be very volatile. And so, but yeah, that's part of leadership. Does the leadership that you're talking about, does that apply to maybe masculine frame or feminine polarity?
I don't know if I understand your question. Can you say
Okay.
more?
So a lot of women are looking usually for men who lead in a masculine sense.
Ah,
So they want a guy who plans a date. They want a guy who takes initiative,
yeah.
and then usually helps plan a life, et cetera, et cetera. They like a man who will lead. I wasn't sure if that's maybe what you talk about when you talk about in the context of leading.
Yeah. Well, it can be. It all
Hmm.
depends on the individual and and where they're coming from.
Hmm.
A lot of times men have trouble functioning in that way
Hmm.
because of belief systems they have that are mostly unconscious. Like it can
Hmm.
feel humiliating or like I'm being controlled or I'm being manipulated or I'm even being used. And so if you have that belief system, then you're like, no, I don't want to plan a date. That feels like it doesn't feel like it's about me at all. It feels like it's just serving you.
Hmm.
Right. And so what we're wondering about when I'm working with anyone is like, well, what are these belief systems and where are they coming from?
Hmm. You
Because those
know,
are more powerful than anything.
hmm and they really shape us, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because what's there's a saying. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pull it here, but there's a saying that basically what you believe is what you are. I think there it is. I just found it. Sometimes you just got to swing the bat and see if you connect. That's how comedy works, folks. And sometimes you strike out, but yeah, what you believe is what you are. I mean,
Yeah.
it's two people can go to a party. I think I pulled this from Anthony Robbins, but two people can go to a party. One person can come away, and they can be like, "Oh, that was the greatest party ever. I focused on all these people that are having fun, because I believe that parties are fun, and yada yada yada." And then someone can come away from that same exact party and be like, "Oh, it was an awful party. I saw people standing around looking unhappy and miserable, and and a lot of what we shape with our beliefs is kind of rose-colored glasses, right?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't question our paradigm and our beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
we unconsciously create our greatest fears. We recreate the patterns that we lived through early on unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, helping people become more conscious about these patterns, their relationship patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you find that? What about trauma and stuff? Now, trauma is a big thing, shaping
Yeah.
childhood blueprints as well. What sort of relationship your parents had, if they had a relationship, if you had a father or mother in the home.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell us a little bit about how that sometimes shapes these belief systems, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, what's interesting about trauma is that this like 10 people can have the same experience and like you said, like the party, and some people have trauma from it and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma lands in our system differently based on how old we are, based on other resiliency factors. So yeah, trauma, whether there's trauma or not, what we really are wondering about is what do you believe?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the challenges with that is that we think we believe one thing and our actions show that we believe something else.
Ah, yeah.
So I can say I believe I'm worthy of a great person in my life, but then when I accept behavior from them that is treating me like I'm not worthy and I'm afraid I'm not worthy, like that's really the belief that's operating.
Yeah. And I've seen people that believe they're worthy, but they haven't done the work in support in fixing their traumas and everything else. And I imagine that's a lot of it. So what do you find most relationships, you use the book Getting the Love You Want, a guide for couples. When you're helping couples, what do you find they're mostly struggling with these days? What's a popular theme that you
I mean,
find?
every couple will say they're struggling with communication.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty much what every couple comes in.
really?
Yeah, and they'll think they're pretty good communicators.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even they think they're both pretty good communicators. But when they actually learn how to slow down and listen in a more deeper way, not jumping to their stories or owning their stories, then like new information is coming up after being together for 30 years. They're like, oh wow, like something new is here. So communication is important. I would say that honestly, what most couples are struggling with is an attitude problem.
Here we go. We're into some good
Which
stuff.
is
Right.
that you should be perfect.
Ah,
You should be perfect. You should meet all my needs. You're not meeting my needs. And so then I go into one of my defensive strategies. I withdraw, I attack, I fawn, or I freeze. And now we've lost our connection
yeah.
because of my story about who you should be.
There's an old saying that, well, there's a couple of sayings that you can kick around, but the one thing I don't know if I can mount it right, but basically the one thing men want from a woman is we don't want her to change when we marry her. But usually when women marry a man, they've got a whole plan for him to change. I mean, I've witnessed that firsthand in my relationships. And thereby it goes. I mean, I've heard relationship people, professionals say, you should marry the person that you think you're marrying and not the person you think you want them to be. And then, another thing that I heard a long time ago, and this really helped me with relationships, was find someone whose number one quality and priority in life, their highest value in a relationship, is integrity. And if you get someone who has integrity, it will solve its own problems because they go,
Okay.
I want to do right by you, or I want to do right by us, I guess if it's a relationship. And so I'm willing to do the work because I have the integrity to do things right and do things with an ethic that, there's a certain ethic that you have if you're going to build something. I'll tell a lot of singles, I'm like, be a builder and find a person who wants to build and build with them. And that's really the difference. And a lot of people, they're just interested in short-term gain. They just want a one-night stand or hookup culture nowadays, or, they just want to chase people out of their league. And they don't see the big picture. A lot of the relationships that, I see a lot of my guy friends that are in now 20 and 30 year relationships. So I have a blueprints to work with and talk to them about. And, they've been through ups and downs and hard times. Some of them have been through really hard times, and their wife is stuck by them. And sometimes it's been shared where, they each take turns on the wheel of life that throws you the curveballs, but they stick together and they work through it, and they don't quit because they're builders. A builder doesn't build a house when you pay him. He doesn't go build a house and then halfway through he's like, this whole house work's a whole lot of work. I don't want to do this anymore. Right?
No, I love this. I 100% agree. I was working with a group of women this weekend, and I told them, look, if you have a partner who's willing to do the work with you, I'm sorry, but you should probably stick it out unless there's something really dangerous going on. You should probably stick it out. And I agree, that integrity. But I just want to go back to what you're saying about, like, women want men to change and men want women to not change. Mm-hmm. But I think kind of both of, like, it's a polarizing thing, right? And the reality is you and I would know if we bought a business that some things are going to have to change. Yeah. And I got to figure out what is at the core that I don't want to change. And so it's best if that couple would work together and say, well, some things are going to change and some things aren't. And how do we decide how to navigate that. I
Yeah.
think that most of us have an attitude problem because we grew up in the school system. And
Tell us about that some more.
yeah, the school system, like you went to like a traditional school, Chris?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So how old were you when you got your first grade, do you think? Some kind of mark.
I mean, would that have been? I think it would have been in kindergarten, or
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
so how
technically, I think they gave you like a behavior sort of
like
grading.
checks or something, right?
Yeah, it was like, were you good or bad or evil? And I
Exactly.
might have
That's
gotten evil
exactly
once.
it. So how old
I
are
was
you
kindergarten.
when you start putting the world in categories of good, bad, and evil? How old?
I don't know, probably
Too
3 or 4,
right. Too
actually.
young to question that.
Yeah.
So it becomes our base level of programming that we are going to be judged, assessed, categorized, and sorted by how good we are. It's not like, oh, I need to work harder or something. It's like it becomes a value judgment on us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, we have to defend ourselves. And so we enter into a relationship trying to see, are you going to give me an A
Mm-hmm.
or are you going to judge me?
Mm.
And we're not on the same team at that point. Now I've given away some power to you to determine my value, and then I'm determining like it's just the whole thing is in this competitive paradigm of win, lose, compare, compete.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously relationships don't do well that way.
Yeah, I've seen some people that and you know, my experiences with women, because that's who I date. So I'm sorry I don't have the experience of the other side. But I've seen people, and I don't know that men do it because I understand men's nature being a man very well. But I've seen where some women really believe that somehow competing with us as men will drive us to achieve more and be better. And it's really an irritant in the marketplace. It's really a
Yeah.
belief system that you talk about, that, you know, we're not, when men come home from work and battling and doing everything, we're looking for feminine peace. We're not looking to do battle axe armor fights in the living room with, you know,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want
the
harmony.
spouse. We're this is where you're supposed to bring me peace, not more battles. And I'm amazed at how many women, I don't want to pick on women, but I mean, just in using this as an example scenario, you know, this belief system that, I mean, they've actually said to me, you know, well, it makes it better, you know, it makes it competitive. No, that's what you think you like, and you do it because you're operating in your masculine, and that's your problem,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah,
we,
but I've seen the other side too. Like if you as a leader in your business came and demanded peace,
mhm.
then all the problems that need some attention are not going to get to your desk.
Yeah, that's true.
So that can happen in the relationship. We have to do both, and we have to have harmony and peace when we need it,
Mhm.
and we have to sit down and make sure everybody is having their needs addressed.
Yeah, and probably, I don't know. You tell me. Probably to, if you're going to communicate, try and do it in a peaceful manner, because certainly, you know, if I sit down with somebody and I go, we need to talk, and we have some issues, and here's some of my thoughts. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's much different than me using extortion or using quiet, what was it called, quiet timeout, where you go, I'm
This
just
is
going to
what
go
we got.
pout. I'm just going to go pout
Yeah.
and hope that he figures out that I'm angry
Yeah.
with him. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
he's just enjoying his peace.
Yeah. We
You
use
know,
what we got, Chris. We do
yeah,
need more tools. We do.
yeah.
But I'm going to suggest that when you come and you say, "Hey, we need to talk,"
Mhm.
that most people get scared
Ah,
because that means I'm in trouble.
yeah.
So if you sit down and you say, "Hey, I think I need to listen. I think that there's something going on here and I need to listen. And I'm wondering if you could help me understand if you're really satisfied with what's happening in here in our
Mhm.
relationship."
Yeah.
Most people will be like, "Oh, you want to listen to me? Wow. Okay."
And you know, sometimes too is the biggest challenge in the communication is saying what you actually mean. Because I've certainly been in a lot of conversations of the, because I tend to, in my relationships, get the we need to talk phone call at work, you know? I'm always in trouble for something. I'm really, I'm a heinous person in relationships. I leave my socks and underwear on the floor. I am the serial killer of socks and floor,
Okay, good to
and
know.
leaving the toilet
Okay,
seat up.
ladies, you've been forewarned.
I am a serial criminal, felonious toilet seat lever upper. I probably might do it on purpose though. Who knows? Anyway, so I get that we need to talk thing a lot, and I go, oh, we need to talk. Okay, great. Well, I have some things I'll write down too because I want to talk about some things too, and it's kind of interesting how that flips the script on it. But it's being able to talk about things and listen to each other, and really sometimes it's not about the topic that's being brought up.
No, it's never been about the topic. No.
At least not with women. I mean,
No,
men will directly tell you.
It's about our deeper needs, and it's particularly about the needs that were not met growing up.
Ah, there we go. Back to the childhood blueprints.
Yeah, that we bring in these unmet needs that we're very unconscious about, and we have built all kinds of fancy things around them so that we don't know about any of that vulnerable stuff, and we overfunction in these different areas, but we always are seeking to get that need met. So like what I'm hearing from you, Chris, is one of your needs is peace. And so I would make up a story that there wasn't peace in your early home and that you were harmed by that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're unconsciously, it's just a story, right? But that you would be unconsciously seeking to take a very high energy, expressive person and get them to give you peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a theory.
And you're right. That actually was my childhood experience, and actually probably over correct in relationships or people that I seek for people who can give me peace. Now that is a innate desire of masculinity in men. We want peace.
Sure.
I mean, that's just how we roll. We go to war all day long in 9 to 5. When we come home, we want peace. That's why we seek the feminine.
Well, and your nervous systems are built to fire very quickly and very intensely at any sign of danger or threat or problem. So it makes sense that you can't really relax unless we're able to clear away those problems.
Yeah, especially if people around me are in fight and flight mode, which a lot of people with trauma and damage, when they'll respond with fight or flight mode, because that's how they've been designed through their trauma. And a lot of these things, like you said, a real important point is bringing it home is a lot of this comes from childhood trauma, and unless it's resolved, you see the world through a different lens when you have your childhood trauma resolved. And partially you see everyone else's trauma, and you're like, nah, I ain't getting near me anymore. Not doing that again.
No.
50 years of that was what I did my time. I'm out. You can have fun. Go see a therapist. That's why I just hand out cards like yours. Go see a family professional therapist is licensed. No, stop buying crystals and go get some fucking help. So let's talk about. We talked about in the prior show about how I run dating groups and give people dating coaching and advice. And we've been trying to with our dating groups bring people back to in-person dating and meeting up and stuff, as opposed to these dating apps that they're $1 trillion companies that have no interest in getting you into a relationship. They just want to run you around in circles on their little thing.
Money and good luck.
Good luck. So, I mean, which is most of my experience is Spirit Rhino in Las Vegas. I like how I wrote that and was able to get that pulled off cleanly. Anyway, so we talked a little bit in the green room before the show about how to help single people find what they want. You have some ideas on that or some thoughts?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head, which is that we have to first understand what shaped us early on. Mm-hmm. What are these needs that were not met? Mm-hmm. What did we get needs for protection, for peace, for safety, for being valued, for being seen, heard, whatever this is, and understand that is operating like a GPS. I think a previous guest was using the GPS as like a metaphor to guide us in a car. And they were saying like your purpose is your GPS, but what really programs the GPS is your unmet need. Oh. That is driving far more than people realize. So we we choose careers, we choose partners, we choose people because on some level we think, oh, you're enough like the people that hurt me, but slightly different. And now I'm going to get a different result.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: you're a licensed psychologist. You've gone in and studied all this stuff. I heard a long time ago, and I think I've heard some validation of it over the years, is that what we do as children is we see the experience that we have, the blueprints that our parents give us, and however that relationship was, we try and we see the failures of it, the fallacies of it, the things that maybe didn't go well in it. And a lot of people, what they try and do when they go into their relationships after they grow up is they try and form the same sort of relationship blueprint their parents had, but they try and fix the holes. They try and fill the holes.
Yeah.
And the problem is 9 times out of 10, if you're creating the same scenario with the same sort of damaged, trauma, undeveloped people that had the reason they had those problems is because of that. And if you're using that same sort of model to try and fix it all, you're not going to get different results. You're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you,
But
is
that's
that
where
true?
the juice is.
That's where the juice is.
You know, the juice comes out of the gum fast if that person is not the kind of crazy that you wanted to fix as a child.
So that explains most of my relationships. I was searching for crazy for a lot of years. My mom's like, how come you always find these crazy chicks? I'm like, and then I looked at her and I went, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's where the juice is.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you're dating, it's really important to understand that. To understand that the crazy, passionate chemistry, energy that you think is telling you, here, set up camp here, actually is unless that person's willing to do the work with you, you're just going to hit another wall. And then, yeah.
And most people aren't equipped for that because you've usually chosen a partner who has that sort of trauma and damage too.
Yeah, that's hot, Chris. That's
hot. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in here in a second.
Yeah.
I always liken that to like the trauma bonding sort of stuff. I always liken that to like, oh, you got a box of broken glass? I got a box of razor blades. Let's mix them and play. We'll just roll in it together because that's love.
Exactly.
That's love.
Exactly. So this is where we get to dating advice, which is you're talking about like hookup culture and everything.
Yeah.
When we start mix and spit and we're having sex really early, all the chemicals in our body say attach to this person, and we lose the ability to discern whether this actually is going to be a good relationship, if they do have integrity, if they're going to be a good teammate. At the beginning, all the chemicals disguise all that, and everybody looks way better than they're going to look 18 months later.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody creates kind of this panacea in their mind of this perfect person, and they meet them. And, I mean, I've even heard it from, I've decided that next time I get in a relationship, I'm going to videotape everything she says for the first little while so that I can have as proof in the Q&A. Oh, you're a Superman. I love everything you do. You're amazing. Year and a half later, I'm the worst piece of shit in the world, but that's just because she figured it all out.
No, it's just that relationships are supposed to be a team sport.
Yeah.
And our culture says, you thought you bought the perfect toaster, it got a dent in it, throw it out, buy a new one.
Yeah, just skip to the next.
The culture isn't telling us how to create the kind of sustainable long-term partnership that we're longing for.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many singles I talk to who think that hookup culture is somehow going to lead them to successful long-term relationships.
I know. I have to stop so many women that I know. I'm like,
really?
Stop. Just keep dating a few more people. Do not act like you're married. Yeah. It's too soon. He hasn't asked you to marry him. Yeah. Like, let him be a man and decide when he wants a commitment. You don't need to decide that you're committed.
Yeah. And then one thing you kind of alluded to, I'm going to hop back to a few minutes ago. Some people get turned on by that crazy chase of
yeah.
it because they love the drama. So they
No,
love the
it's not
ups.
but
Okay.
Chris, I want to add to that. It's not they do love the drama, yes.
Mhm.
But the juice is there because there was drama as a child. They had to chase down love. And that's their blueprint. That's their pattern. So when love shows up fully ready to meet your needs, you're like, no, I got to pass. I want to go after that person who seems completely uninterested because that's what my brain is familiar with.
Yeah, that explains dating right there.
Should we go date? Should we go on a date together, Chris? I'll be in your ear and I'll tell you, like, Chris, no.
This is about. I reject like 95% of my coffee dates anyway, so I do that.
Yeah, because there's no juice there.
Well,
you're like,
part
you
of
are
it.
not crazy enough. You are not going to break my peace. You are not going to give me harmony.
Well, I mean, I think my biggest problem in dating is liabilities. So a lot of people come with a lot of liabilities,
Yeah.
and I've done the work to clean up my life, and I've done the hard fucking work to deal with all my childhood trauma, my brain damage. I don't know. People listening to the show right now are going, he still has trauma. He's walking trauma. Some people say, but
But there's a lot of liabilities.
Yeah,
a lot
of liabilities. I mean, as a man, in a world where my money is her money and her money is her money, that's kind of the thing women say nowadays.
No, it is. I find that incredibly horrible. Like, that's just.
Isn't it crazy? And, you're like, no, when you're in a relationship, you share money, but, you see women brag about that on the thing. And, so.
Trusting people is really hard, especially around money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you see that in the marketplace, but as a man, when you do come into a relationship, you take over certain things, especially if you're expected to lead. And so we're required to take over things. And when in a lot of people that are single, women, at least from my, like I said, this comes from my angle, folks. I don't date guys, so I don't know what you guys experience over there. And I wouldn't want to either. But it's you. If a woman has multiple baby daddies, a lot of problems I see nowadays is I meet somebody who has multiple baby daddies. And what a lot of people don't realize is those people are in your relationships. I found that out the hard way in relationships is, the ex-husband, the ex-boyfriend, hopefully there's just one, they have problems. I've left women over I just can't deal with the baby daddies and their drama and the problems that they bring to the relationship. And it's just weird because you're just sitting there going, I'm not getting any benefit from this person. I'm not sleeping with them. They're not making me breakfast in the morning. Like I get nothing from this person other than grief and hell.
Yeah.
And, John
so
didn't
you've learned
so
over time.
And then you see a lot of people that they have like really massive amounts of debt. They got upside down in their car loans. They got, $50,000 and $100,000 in loans with what is it, college and stuff.
That sounds so seductive, Chris.
It is. It's hard. It's making my nipples hard right now.
Yeah, that would seduce you. Be like, wow, I could be the hero. I could rescue them. I could save the distressed damsel.
I burned my Captain Savior cape a long time ago as a man.
Good.
I burned that sucker to the ground.
Good.
But I mean, it's there's people for those people.
Yeah.
If you've got kids and they've got kids and you got to work it out. But where I don't bring those amount of liabilities and debts to the thing, you just have to look at people. I mean, it's part of what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
I've had very rich
friends.
Doing
your due diligence, just like you're buying a business. Like you're going to assess that business. You're going to say, wow, too many liabilities. I don't think that's the business for me.
Yeah.
That's not the relationship for me.
Yeah.
The problem is your unconscious programming may talk you out of that and may tempt you.
Not me.
Okay, good. No, good.
I don't play suicide missions with my life.
People in your dating club, we want you to understand you got to have a good policy. And if your policy is no baby daddies, no exes, no small children, then you just like no harm to just move on. Don't get seduced into, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and some people they do get captured, men get captured by that savior thing. We kind of have that whole I'll protect you and save you. We have that sort
Oh,
of
well, we
mindset.
love
So
to be saved, don't
yeah.
we? And
I mean, no one saves me, but I haven't found a guy who'll do that yet. But
well,
usually
you
they want
said you
something
do not
exceptional.
want to date men. You've been very
Yeah.
clear.
So so I don't have that. I don't get that issue. I have to be the savior. So what are some other? I one thing I talk about in there's data. Um, the data shows that on dating apps, 95% of women are chasing the top percentage of men,
Mhm.
and the top 5 to 1% of men. The Chad chasing we see is huge in hookup culture. I mean, I have whole rooms full of guys where 90% of them aren't dating, and the few
I
percentage
know,
that
it's so
are going
sad.
through about 50 women a month. And we're not talking dating. We're talking about Netflix and chill. Come over
Yeah, yeah.
and do the
Oh, I
thing.
see the same thing in my practice.
Do
I
you
do.
really? So
Oh, yeah.
what advice do you have for women and maybe men to if you want something better to chase something better that you can get and that it can be healthy for you long term if you want to build.
Well, I think the paradigm is so critical. Like you said, you're looking for integrity,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not looking for these other factors. I feel like so many people when they're dating,
Mm-hmm.
they are looking, it's like almost a grading system. It's like sort, analyze who's the best, and I'm the best, and we need the best.
Yeah.
And the reality is that you need to just go in trying to learn more about people and
Mm-hmm.
look for just look at who they are and have a conversation. A lot of people become more or less attractive after a conversation.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing that's interesting to me is I come from the old world, as I call it now, in dating. I'm like Charlton Heston, who just landed in space, and I'm like, why are there all monkeys here in dating? And what I mean by that is this hookup culture thing, because
Yeah.
I'm used to taking a woman on 2 to 3 dates to figure out who she is, vet her.
Yeah.
She's going to vet me as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's kind of an interesting thing that happens when you date that way is your bodies talk to each other. There's millions
Yeah.
of cues that go on in person that don't go on over text and don't go on over things. And a lot of that builds the simpatico or builds connection or finds connection. And
Mhm.
so sometimes, you take a person out on a first date, they're a little bit nervous, it might be a little choppy, and then sometimes you do on a second date and, everyone's settled in a little bit better. And you can kind of find each other. There are times where I've been on a date with somebody, second or third date, and sometimes it's a moment where we're not talking. I think that's kind of interesting that I tell people. I go, a lot of times when I figure out that I'm clicking with somebody and I feel really comfortable and I feel that relationship sort of blanket kicking in is when we're not talking. So
Yeah.
sometimes we'll be walking and holding hands and we're not saying anything. Sometimes I'll be sitting in the theater watching a movie and we're holding hands or I've got my arm around her and we're not saying anything. And all of a sudden I'll feel my body talking to me or our bodies talking to each other, I call it, where you go, I feel really safe here. I feel
Mhm.
really comfortable with this person. I feel like I have a level of trust with them. There's and you don't always have that. Like sometimes you'll just be like, it's just
Yeah.
trying to put the square peg in the round hole. If you had that toy when you were a kid, um, you can all find that on OnlyFans too. Anyway, not sure what that means, but yeah, and so you feel that simpatico, but sometimes you don't feel it to the second or third date.
Yes.
And one
Yeah.
thing I kind of knock my single folks over the head over is that if you're going out, we've created this dating apps and Facebook has become this Amazon shopping world
Yeah. Yeah.
where we just think that okay, well I can just have a relationship delivered by Amazon. It'll show up
Yeah.
at the door and everything will be perfect.
Yeah.
And so we look to these pictures of people and we left swipe on them and we really have no idea who they are.
No.
And to
And the
me,
problem, can I just add
yes
to that?
please.
It's so important, Chris. The problem is, and especially if you have a good imagination, which like visionaries, entrepreneurs, creative people do, it's much easier to wrap them in fantasy when we are not actually spending time together. The more time we spend texting or calling on the phone, the more our brain is coming up with a huge fantasy because we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Oh. And, and that
So I
brings up
agree. And I would
yeah.
say you should be dating people at least 10 or 12 dates before you stop dating anyone else.
I don't know if I'd.
I know it takes a lot of discipline. But
That's a
you
lot of
will
days.
wind up making far less mistakes. So in the long run, you will get there faster.
No, well, I don't know. I don't know about that, but
Because the mistake is costly, Chris. It costs you years.
well, the thing is, and I agree with you there. A lot of, especially men that I talk to, because I don't talk a lot of women about this, but for a lot of men, it is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Especially as a man, because you'll pay for it.
Yeah. It'll
So
affect every area of your life.
yeah. And you can't find anybody to clean up your mess as a man. You have to clean up your own mess as a man. It's the old Godfather line. Men can't afford to make mistakes. Women and children can make mistakes. Men can't afford to make mistakes. Although I would say women do need to be careful with the mistakes they want to make because those can shape their lives. But they can always find a man to help them out.
Yeah.
You can't.
But I want to reiterate this idea that our GPS is programmed by our unmet need, not our purpose, vision, goal, fantasy, whatever. It is programmed by that. And so it takes a lot of time to determine if this person can help you clean up your mess. Like the best relationship would be that we work together to clean up both of our messes. Right. But it's hard to tell that because our GPS is going to lead us down this other road.
So maybe is it good to talk to someone like you to try and identify what are my needs? What are the holes I'm trying to fill? Because maybe I don't think a lot of people do that.
No, they don't, because no one told us. No one told us that our unmet need was that important. They're like, you survived your childhood, go to school, get a job, build a business, pick a career. And the deficits in your nurturing have nothing to do with anything. But it actually has everything to do with everything. Everyone unconsciously chooses their career based on their deficits, their need deficits.
Wow. Now, one thing we talked about, or that you mentioned about,
big statement.
Yeah.
I hope it's right.
You're the psychologist, damn it.
It sounded good.
I'm just the amateur knight over here. But yeah, a lot of people try and fill those holes. And the one thing you talked about was one thing that makes me very frustrated with today's dating world too. So what I see these people and they're kind of handicapped because they grew up in the texting world. But you mentioned about how people build this fantasy about someone when th're not around them in person.
Yeah.
So, I'm an old world dater. I date in person. How I've adapted to texting is I'll text someone off a dating app or Facebook. I'll get a feel for if there's attraction. Attraction is a big deal. If a woman's attracted to you, she'll talk to you. You're going to have an interaction, and so important. I look for that feedback. You've got to have genuine attraction. And so, a lot of guys will try and hammer a nail into steel.
Oh, we're back to that peg.
Yeah, we're back to the peg. It's not OnlyFans references here, folks. Anyway, but they'll try and force attraction, like by showing women their shiny cars or money, or they'll try and just belabor her, overwhelm her DMs, her text messaging, and I'll just convince her to love me and have attraction to me. You can't buy attraction. No. And so I usually look for a little bit of feedback. It usually takes about 6 to 8 messages. I use voice messages too, so people can hear my voice, and that makes a big difference.
Important. Yeah.
It really does.
You have a great voice, very sexy.
Yeah, I mean, I can seduce a lot of women over text messaging. I bet. Voice, and it's like, oh my gosh, how much testosterone you got over there, buddy? I've even had some women that are like friends of mine, and they're like, "Can we just keep talking?" Because I just love her voice.
Right?
Like,
you have a great voice.
Like, no, you're a friend of mine. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. No, attraction's critical, but it's only the first step.
Yeah, but But so what I do is, as soon as I know that there's attraction there, I ask for a phone number. I take them to coffee. We don't
Yeah.
fuck around. I'm not going to spend. I'm not going to spend 50,000 messages talking to
No.
people.
I agree. It's a total waste of time.
Total
In fact,
waste of time.
probably counterproductive.
And today, a lot of people use filtered photos. They use fake photos.
Oh, those are so
You know.
scary too.
So to me,
I mean, I
gotta
do
meet.
have my filter on. I'll be honest. The filter's on.
I do too, because I'm actually a troll in real life, and I look like a troll. Most people know that. But part of the thing is, these people, like I'll meet guys and gals, and I'll be like, so what's going on with the person you're kind of got into, and they're like, oh, we're in our texting phase. I'm like, what the fuck is a texting phase? And they're like, well, it's where you text for 3 or 4 months and then you finally go out. I'm like, what?
Dangerous.
What? I mean, I had one gal tell me that a guy texted her for 5 years. Good morning, good night, all that simp stuff that simps do.
Oh, he's just using her not so lonely. That's horrible.
Yeah. Before you finally asked her out, she said, Chris, he texted me for 5 years before he finally asked me on a date.
How is she even still single? That lady needed to move on. Anyway.
No. But I'll send her your number.
They should do,
I'll send her your number. She can work with you. Because you bring up a good point. And so and the problem is this texting thing, and I think it's bigger for women because you guys keep a lot of that stuff in your head, that fantasy in your head.
It's that's
And they just build up this person.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the Chads that they're like, I think I'm finally turning him. I can convert him. I've seen there's a Facebook page now called "Are We Dating the Same Guy?"
Yes, I'm naive. Remember, I'm naive. Stop exposing me to this.
Well, we're probably exposing a few people on the show to this, and really what they are is there are ways to try and isolate the Chads, figure out who's dating the same Chad they are, and try and isolate them. Sometimes by spreading scurrilous sort of things. I've seen that.
Oh my God.
It's kind of crazy.
Oh
but
it's a brutal world out there today.
And I tell people, I'm like, knock all that texting off. Go on a freaking date. Go to coffee, and get them on or off. I mean, you don't even in today's world. You don't know if you're talking to a 10,000-pound dude in Nigeria who's you don't know who's who anymore.
Maybe that's what
you really don't. Well, I mean, if you're into that, I don't mean to kink shame anybody. So God bless you and go forward. But I don't know.
No, but you're just so right. We need to be in person. We need to actually meet, and we need to know that there's attraction. That's really critical.
In person, because you can build up the biggest fantasy in your head about people, and I might have been guilty of that as a man. And then you meet them, and you jump the hell out of your shoes and into space. I've had that happen on dates where I'm like, holy crap! Sometimes they posted pictures of their youth when they were in high school, and I hear men and women both do this from what I hear. So you got to meet in person. You got to get them off.
And we got to make sure there's attraction.
You got to make sure there's attraction in person in real life.
This is the thing. Mm-hmm. The attraction could be coming from the fact that they are holding a lost part of yourself. That is where a lot of juice comes from. So we talked about how women can be chasing really dark men.
Yeah.
Really, like even sociopath men.
Dark triad traits.
We have to know about the sociopath in us. We have to know about the parts of us that we have put away. The most loving, kind, generous person will unconsciously be drawn to the really self-involved person.
Yeah.
Because they need more of that energy. And so it's like a vortex. It draws us to the opposite, the parts of ourselves that we shut down. So if we're great caretakers, we're going to wind up with somebody who's pretty helpless and lost and needs caretaking.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. We're looking to fill those voids. And if you know what those voids are, my void is peace. And I need the sex fulfilled, and what's the other thing? Companionship, I guess. Feed me. I mean, I look for feminine sort of qualities, nurturing.
Well, I would just guess. I'm going to psychoanalyze you because I think I paid you, so maybe this isn't working out for me. But like, so yeah, your unmet need would be peace. That's what you need,
Oh.
is you need peace and harmony and somebody to protect you.
I don't need protection,
Protect you
though.
from chaos. Well,
Protect you from chaos. Okay, I get it.
you might need that. I'm
Yeah.
just analyzing you. I don't know. We don't know each other at
I
all.
would agree with you on the protection from
But
chaos
then,
because I deal with enough of that.
yeah, but you're unconsciously drawn to it. This again, this is my 10-cent, Lucy psychology.
Sure.
But then when we're talking about functioning, it's from reading your book and knowing you. I'm like, you're a doer
Mm-hmm.
and you're a thinker.
I try.
Right. So you're going to be drawn to people who actually are more being energy, sensory energy, feeling energy, because you're going to be pulling each other like, oh, wow, I need more doing energy. I need this thinking energy. They're going to be really drawn to you, and you're going to be drawn to them like, wow, they're so chill and they're really, anyway, it's just theory. We'd have to dig in to really get to it. But my point is that we're drawn to people who have different functioning, but often the same unmet need.
I'm going to think about that. I'm going to think about what are my unmet needs and what I want.
Yeah.
A lot of the peace does come from a masculine frame. Men want peace.
Yeah.
We want our women to be happy.
Yes.
We want them to be joyful. We want them to be in their feminine, where they can play and they can be carefree. And that's what the masculine frame provides.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that peace does come from the masculine male nature of mine.
Right.
It does, but you're right. My childhood was chaotic. I had two women throwing emotional suicides every day for attention and validation and just miserableness overall. But it was because their men weren't masculine, and so they were having to be in their masculine, and they were miserable in their masculine. That's why they were acting that way.
Right.
But
so really, we're talking about like conscious dating, knowing your relationship pattern, how you were shaped and formed in your childhood that may be programming your GPS in the wrong direction.
Maybe. I mean, searching for peace, I think, is pretty healthy, right?
Well, of course. It's just that, like I said, if you run a business and you're very clear you want peace, you're not going to hear about the problems until it's later.
Yeah. Well, business is a different animal. I mean,
I think it is, actually.
I can't expect peace in business. I can expect peace at home. You disagree with me?
It's a combination because the problems will go, the energy will leave if there's too much peace and we're not actually curious about what's really going on. The energy will go, it'll either go flat or the problems will fester until somebody can't do it anymore.
I think I can see your point. I mean, there's going to be problems in everything. They're going to be inherent.
Trouble.
I think what you want is someone who's not thriving. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say in all this is I want someone who doesn't thrive on creating that drama, because there's people that they live for that shit. I've seen couples that they're calling the cops every night over domestic. And then I'll meet them and they're like, "You guys are back together?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we love the makeup sex." And I'm like, "You guys live a really fucking stupid, crazy life to get good makeup sex. Like, having the cops called every night to come over and,
but like there's something in there of like it's what we need. It's the GPS. There's like if you're chaotic and I get you to choose to be peaceful, that has more juice in it than if I pick somebody who's peaceful in the beginning.
Yeah. And some people, they think that up and down, they get hooked to the ups and downs of that chaotic life. They like the emotional roller coaster, and they're kind of addicted to that. So I imagine that would come back to what we've been talking about, if that's your...
Well, we love it and we hate it.
Yeah. Well, some people they probably have the same experience I had in childhood, and they believe that that's a relationship because that's the blueprint that my parents gave me, that you're supposed to have this toxic fighting at each other's throats every part of the day. And so for
Very
people,
powerful.
yeah. And I see that a lot too with people who constantly get into abusive relationships, sometimes physically. And
Yeah.
I used to sit when I was younger and be like, why do women who get beaten up physically in a relationship, or sometimes men as well, keep going back to those same types of people? And they actually search for them. I mean, I've had some women that I've asked them on dates, and I know that I kind of assume maybe they have their trauma fixed because I could see it. And they didn't, and they bowed out because they're like, Chris, you're too
Oh
nice
yeah,
of a
I've
too
seen
nice of a
so many
guy.
women. Yeah, so many
Yeah.
women get rejected because they were not crazy enough.
I
Seriously, I mean,
probably have some friends that's their MO.
it's just
Like
so
seriously.
powerful. It's so powerful. It's so worth doing the work to unpack our unmet needs and to understand what kind of people we're drawn to and how they're really signaling something that we need more of.
Yeah. So let's talk to the resolution of that.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? How do we do the work? And what are the important ways to do that? I noticed, and let's weave into that some of the stuff that you guys do at your website, and as we go out, some of the services you offer at your website that help them resolve those issues.
Yeah, well, my favorite workshop is called Keeping the Love You Find, or Finding a Love to Keep, which is doing the work. And, I just spent the weekend with 7 women, and they were a little mad at me. I'll be honest. They're a little mad. They're like,
Really?
Michelle, this is freaking hard.
We have to do work.
I've been in therapy. I thought I had this. But it's super intense when you actually dig in and uncover, there sometimes trauma can get buried pretty deep, and we can overcompensate in some pretty fancy ways to avoid that vulnerability. So, I mean, a weekend workshop is great. We have digital products on the website. My website developers like working their butt off to get it all coordinated, but we have digital products where you can at least start to dig in and ask yourself some questions, do worksheets. It's like a technology, like you can actually identify from a list your unmet need and then, see if that fits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have an unmet need, but it's mostly hot sex. Anyway, I'm just kidding, folks. It's a joke. We do jokes on the show. Anyway.
I have that one too. So
there you go. I think everyone likes hot sex. So,
I mean, right?
Sometimes I do it in the fridge and it's cold sex. But or maybe cold sex is marriage sex.
You're traumatizing me, Chris. Stop it.
I'm just having fun here, folks. So anyway, so people can get with you.
Take a class, yeah, or call me and we'll do some intensive work, whatever fits.
Okay,
but
so
it would
they
be
can
fun to do a course for your group, do a workshop and you can bond with other people and learn about each other.
Yeah,
that'd be fun
if we can get them to show up. It's really interesting how powerful. One thing someone should study, like yourself, is I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you an idea. I'm just such a bossy bitch today. Is this texting fantasy creates so much fantasy, and I realize now, even just talking to you about it, that one of the fallacies that people are doing for lack of intimacy is they're doing this eternal texting before they ever go on a date. Yeah. Or they go on a date and I read a lot of women's stuff in different forums and things, and I'll see women that are like, well, I went out with him once and we've been texting for the last 3 months, and you're like, wait, he doesn't take you out again? No,
but I'm
wondering, is he serious about
the woman accepting this? I have to tell my clients, just say what you want. Say, I don't want to text, I want to pick up the phone. Let me know when you're available. I want to be taken out. Are you going to ask me out? Because I would love that. Yeah. Just, I would prefer the man make the first move, but if he hasn't made the first move, you got to say what you want and then see how he responds.
See if and communicate, like you just said, communicate effectively what you want.
Of playing the girlfriend every morning,
I mean, I have guys that they are literally basically they are literally doing months and months. They do good morning, they do good nights to
Yeah.
these
It's
women.
like we're pretending to be boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah, they are. That's what they do.
Ugh.
And the girls are like, why is this idiot doing this? I want to go on a date.
Right, but why
You know?
is she agreeing to it? Like she's coming into agreement with it when she's texting back.
I think some people they like the attention and validation. Women live
Exactly.
for
So
attention and
there's an
validation.
unmet need there that's driving the
Ah.
behavior. And then we got to figure out, okay, is this really? I mean,
Yeah. That's one of the things. Let's talk about this if you don't mind. I know we're running a little bit long here than we normally do, but one of the
it's because
theories.
I'm so interesting, Chris.
It is, and you're so knowledgeable. Although we've taught you a few things, so I've damaged
Yes,
you.
I've learned
scarred you
more
for
than I
life.
wanted to know.
Some things you shouldn't look up on the internet when it comes to the Urban Dictionary. One thing I find is that I discovered this early on in Match.com. I think in the 90s or 2000, that women were starting to get because the women are at the forefront of the relationship. Men do have to ask, but women decide to make that commitment, and usually that's with sex. So women have sex with the men they want. Women have sex with the men they want. Men have sex with the women they can. It alternatively fixes itself in the universe because men marry who they want, women marry who they can.
Yeah.
That's why women always have this stack of the men who got away that they would rather probably be married to, the alpha widow concept. But one thing I see with this texting thing is God, I can't get back to where I segued off of. So I saw this option overload, and it had happened. It really identified one time. I took this girl out from Match.com, and we had this amazing date. To give you guys an idea that it wasn't just a simple friendly date. We did get to base number 2 on the date. So she seemed to like me. Let's put it that way. This wasn't just like I took her out to dinner and she never called me back and blah, blah, blah. No, we seemed to really be into each other, considering we couldn't keep our hands off each other. And then I hadn't gotten her phone number for some reason. I don't know why. Or maybe I just got in the wrong. I somehow I'd screwed up contacting her, and it was my fault. And so I had reached out to her on Match.com again to offer a second date. And I never heard back. And I just went, okay, she's not interested. That's cool. This happens in dating, part of the gig. And then like 3 or 6 months later, I get this message from her. Oh, Chris, I just found your message that you want a second date. And I go, you just found me? Like, what the fuck? We had a really good date. How did you lose track of this? And she's like, Chris, we're getting as women 400 messages a day. New men every day, new men coming at us in the dating app. And I went, holy shit. And that's when I discovered this thing called option overload. And I know this from sales. If you offer,
we just need 3 options.
Yeah. You don't, the more options you give people, the more they'll lock them down because they're like, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
And so what I see women nowadays is they have this roster of, they have the man they want who's out of their league, which is usually a Chad.
Yeah.
And they will climb a mountain and swim a river and fight off lions, tigers, and bears for that guy. But he won't usually. He's a Chad, so he's out of their league. He's a 10, therefore. But they think they're a 10. And then they usually have this roster of other guys that are fulfilling stuff that are like husband roles and relationship roles. So they got a guy they can call to get the car fixed. When I had my modeling agency, I had models that they had a Monday guy, and Monday guy was rent guy. Tuesday guy was car payment guy. Wednesday guy was utilities. I'm not even shitting you. Like I've seen this.
I know.
It became mainstream. I used to see it early on in the 90s.
What do you think about it?
Well, to me, one of the challenges is women have so much of this noise and support system going on that they normally would have as a husband and one man, that they can't ever find validation and attention of just getting one man after that. Having a husband. They want a husband, but they can't ever live with just his, because he's boring now. They're used to having all these men and their simps in their DMs, worshiping them every day. And to me, it's a dopamine addiction. And
I was just thinking that. I was like, wow, that sounds like there'd be a lot of dopamine in that, and it would
Yeah.
be addictive.
And it just becomes these cell phones and social media have really created this dopamine addiction, and that's
Yeah.
really what you have is all these people walking around dopamine addicted to what they think are relationships, like what we talked about, filling the holes from their childhood.
Yeah.
But
And it's fulfilling until it's not,
yeah,
till there's a crash, and
yeah.
it's
Well,
sad.
usually the
These
crash
are
is
sad stories, Chris.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is what's going on. And so as a man, you come along and you're like, hey, I'm a good guy over here. I want to offer you a long-term relationship. I think I'm kind of interested in it. Either you can't get their interest because they're so overwhelmed. Like I've had so many messages I've sent to women where I've talked to them back and forth, and then I offered a coffee date. They never saw the coffee date message because, Chad was pinging on the other line.
Right.
And then later on, they'll see it. They'll be like, "Oh shit, I missed that. Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I'm just like, "Yeah, no, not going to do it. No, you were too busy looking the other way at chasing something you don't deserve.
Yeah.
You're going to make the same mistake again. It's
Yeah.
not going to be the first time." And so I see a lot of this in dating, where women are so
want
engaged
my
with the
advice?
simps, and yeah,
My advice is that early on, first date, you say, I am looking for somebody who's really serious, who's not dating, like, fine if you're dating a few other guys
I'm fine
while
if
we
people are
figure it
dating.
out.
Yeah.
But if I'm lost in a flurry, like, you got to let me know. You got to let me know if you are dealing with, multiple different kinds of relationships and you're not looking for something serious, because I am.
Yeah. Well, usually I can figure that out pretty easy. There's a bunch of red flags in testing that I have that will figure that out. Usually we call it looking for the Chad chasers. So Chad chasers usually have some identifiable things you'll see on Facebook or their profiles. And sometimes it's the way they behave or the way they swag. Facebook is has been a great validator for me because I can look down.
You got to research. You got a whole research protocol.
Oh, you do. You do. I mean, there's probably hundreds of women that I've looked at on Facebook that I've been like, no, not going to do it because I read your Facebook thing. And it's because, it's part of it is because I've done the work and I've trauma healed. So I can, if I see all these psychotic, crazy ass fucking pump it up depression, I'm suffering from massive depression memes. So I post all these crazy positive memes and that's all I post on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm out. So the best thing people need to do in summation is they need to do the work. They need to reach out to a licensed therapist, not crystals, and not astrology.
And I would say a licensed imago therapist, because that's who I train. And that means they are trained to understand relationships, not just psychology, but how do we impact each other? And they are going to be able to help you figure out what are your unmet needs and how are you over functioning, under functioning, and how is that going to drive who you're attracted to?
Yeah, definitely driving who you're attracted to, and why you're choosing potentially bad partners. Some people do that.
Why are those Chads so tempting?
Yeah, and I see people and I understand the emotional context behind it, especially for women, what they're emotionally connected to, and I guess maybe it's the same for men, although I don't know. There's so many feminine men that are in their emotions now, so that's probably true too. But they're used to the patterns of the bad men that they're used to, and they always say, "I'm not going to date any more bad men," and they just go right back to it. And it's like
promises.
Yeah,
but it's so seductive when you meet that person that.
Well, I think you've helped identify it because they go back emotionally, like what we've talked about here, to those holes they're trying to fill.
Yeah.
And like I said early on, I found someone who told me that magic that we try and we find people to recreate the blueprint that we had from childhood so that we can fix the holes in it.
Yeah.
But the problem is two damaged people do not make a whole person.
It all depends on if we're coming with the right attitude, that we are there to heal and grow with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter.
I suppose so. Do you really feel that people can heal and grow together? I feel like I can, as a man, as a leader, as masculine frame, I feel like I can heal small T trauma, the little stuff. I can't fix if you got big T trauma. I'm not.
Well, it can't be you fix them and they fix you. It has
There
to
you
be
go.
we are committed to understanding what's really going on in ourselves and each other and work as a team.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
often said that if I ever get into a relationship again, what I'm going to do is do preemptive counseling. So
Yeah.
maybe do like a dipstick check.
You can do our digital course at home, 8 weeks.
Oh, there you go. Every 3 months, you check in.
Yeah.
Hey, is everything cool? Anything we need to do? Before it becomes that pile of stuff in the skeleton closet, the one day it all falls out and you got a landfill of shit and you're just like, we should try and fix this now. And you're just like, it might be a little late for that.
Exactly.
But, trying to unwind that whole onion.
No, I think it's so critical to do the work as early as, and it's even great because the first year, like, is hot sex, juices flowing, good times. That's a great time to do it because now we have the energy to do the work.
Yeah.
If we wait too long, we lose all the good, yummy energy, and then we have to spend time building that back.
Yeah. And sometimes there's too much water on the bridge. Like it's just too many hurt feelings, too much damage. I don't know. Maybe
usually it's the wrong attitude, but
is it? There you go. The wrong attitude. I mean, some people just want to quit instead of do the work, right?
Yeah. Throw the toaster out, get a new one.
Throw the coaster out. Jesus. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Give us your .coms as we go out one more time, Michelle.
MichelleBohls.com, BOHLS.com, and you can reach me there. And let me know what you want to do. We'll figure it out.
There you go. Thank you very much, Michelle, for being on the show. We've solved some riddles for people. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.